All right, so welcome back to Fast Casual Nation, where we talk about all things fast casual, the operators and innovators that are making this space a reality in every way in terms of leading the restaurant space really kind of into the next decade. And of course, this podcast breaks down some of those innovators, both new and some of the innovators that have kind of led the charge in where fast casual's growth is going. And today I've got with me Mario Del Perro of Mendocino Farms, a co-founder there. Great to have you, Mario.
Paul, I appreciate you having me on. I do take a slight offense. I've very rarely been characterized as an old guy, but I guess in this space, I fall into that.
Yeah.
But.
Well, Mendocino's, you guys kind of set the tone, for the upscaling of of fast casual sandwich segment. And I remember when I got a chance to, we did a Fast Casual Nation with you guys about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And went into, I think it was Costa Mesa, somewhere in Southern California, at one of your locations, beautiful location.
Yeah.
And it was I had seen Mendocino before, but it was really the first time I got a chance to really experience everything from the menu aspect to kind of what the brand was about. And it was a very unique concept because it was a freestanding restaurant. I remember that. And it was one of my first times I was like, wow, this could work anywhere. So
it's very kind.
Kudos
I joke
to you.
around all the time with the co-founder of Tender Greens, Eric.
Eric, yep.
That we were around fast casual before the words fast casual existed, right?
Yep, that's right. Eric, great guy. Love Eric. We get a chance to talk quite a bit. I always pick his brain on kind of up and coming trends. So Mario, let's kind of roll into, for our listeners, because there's probably a lot of entrepreneurs, upstarts, and even prosumers out there that either maybe they're not a West Coast and maybe they haven't heard so much of the Mendocino story. Tell us how you and your wife got going with Mendocino Farms.
Yeah, I mean, quick, we're as of today, a 30-unit gourmet sandwich and salad concept. We started almost 16 years ago.
Wow.
My co-founder, Ellen Chen, and myself, we actually owned a fast casual Asian concept that had a lot of learnings from it. Let's just say I always joke that it was before its time,
Right.
but we actually had some insights into how to maybe do it better. And there was a few like major things going on that were decently obvious. I don't think that we were, total innovators. These were some obvious kind of movements that were happening. One is, you go back 16 years ago, Food Network was like unbelievably coming on the stage and kind of awakening everyone's inner foodie. So we were already kind of noodling like, gosh, in this field, of course, not defined as fast casual yet, just better than fast food. What if we had something a little bit more chef driven, right? What if we had food that was what we would call approachably adventurous?
Right.
The other thing that was going on is in Los Angeles is one of the local better for you grocery stores, Mrs. Gooch's, had just been acquired by this company that we really hadn't even heard of called Whole Foods Market.
Yeah, right out of Austin, Texas.
Yeah, you walk in and Whole Foods, even back then, maybe even more so, had started to what I believe, create its own movement of food transparency and defining, new levels of quality that we just hadn't seen. And we personally, my business partner who I married, were really connecting with those things. So we kind of asked ourselves, in this kind of evolving fast casual space, could we put that chef driven and this food transparent type concept together? What would be the best genre? And we definitely saw a gap in sandwiches. At that time, there was a ton of really good regional players. Funny enough, they're now, 16 years later, national players. So like Jimmy John's was kind of more or less in, the Midwest, and you had Firehouse Subs and Capriotti's and, Jeff Sanilli was just forming Which. and we thought, hey, is there room for something a little bit higher end for a couple dollars more?
Right, right.
And then be able to incorporate more of that Whole Foods like supply chain, and that's kind of the birth of Mendocino Farms.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I think a lot of people don't give credit to some of the early brands, such as Mendocino, for kind of that chef to fast casual, movement that was occurring. It was really led with companies like yourself, well before we actually started seeing chefs making this transition from fine dining and moving into the fast casual space with their own, little, whether it's one-offs, and now beginning, some of their brands with companies like Guy Fieri even and Bobby Flay, both of course trying to venture in to this area. So kudos to what you guys did early on. Now, okay, so fast forward 15 years,
Yeah.
16 years, you guys of course have grown into, 30 units. The transition of kind of how you're growing, obviously being led by some private equity groups, from Catterton to now TPG. What was that transition like? Because now it seems like you guys are really prepped for explosion.
I get a little scared when you say the word explosion.
Prepped explosion.
We were trying to fight implosion. Yeah, no, hey, I think that if there are some any takeaways for growing brands, that might listen to this, is I think it's really important to get good advisors, whether
Right.
you do it through through taking some private equity money, or whether you establish it as board. We were very blessed to have Catterton. I think they're one of only a few firms out there that are great incubators
Yeah.
of brands, and they really they put some incredible operators on our board, to help give us insights that are very specific, rather than the awful board member just saying do better. We had
You're right.
people like Bill Allen, who are legends of the
Okay.
business, that have been there at one unit creating Fleming's Steakhouse, and hundreds and hundreds of units and running Outback. So
Very cool.
to have that level of wisdom, both available to my wife and I, with a phone call, and at least quarterly in a board meeting, we were able to avoid a lot of probably areas that could have taken us out, versus really build kind of a foundation that we could build from. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend that. The thing that I warn is be careful, because once you do take private equity money, they have needs, and they want to get a return, and they need you to grow. And you
Right.
need to be careful, because I truly believe this is kind of a nerd of the business, is that you need to go slow to go fast.
Right.
I don't think it's ever been a land grab. If you look at the iconic brands in the industry, the In-N-Outs, the Cheesecake Factories, at certain times, yes, they hit the pedal, but slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
And the critical factor of building the team. I think private equity allows us founders who are very frugal. If we've gotten any success, it's out of our frugality.
Yeah.
We oftentimes, hire for what we need, versus, smart private equity goes, let's build, the business and the people for the business you want, not the one you currently have.
Exactly.
And I think
Yeah.
that they really help you kind of open your eyes to be able to recruit the level of talent that's required from outside to grow at a sustainable level. And then, of course, I always put it as a caveat, if you bring outside talent, is to make sure that you do it slow enough that they have time and you've prepared to assimilate them. Because the last
Right.
thing you want to do is end up super scaling, yet watering down what really made you special at the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of fast casual upstarts make is, they aren't prepared to really acquire the kind of team that it's going to take to move to that next level.
Mhm.
And in some cases, I mean, if you look at most bootstrap startups, a lot of times they are hiring just for what they need today rather than what they're looking at, down 5 years or a 10-year plan. But once you're right, once private equity steps in and kind of gets your cushion under you, now
Yeah.
you can really put the pedal down, especially if the brand has proven itself, kind of like what you guys did.
Yeah,
So I think that's the key.
no, I agree. I mean, again, I go back to seeking out mentorship, even, before you start taking private equity.
Hmm.
We were very fortunate through our lawyer, to be introduced to this gentleman, Nick Marsh, who CEO of Chopped Salads. You might have even have had him on.
Yep. Hmm.
Oversees Dos Toros. Just probably one of the smarter people in our industry. And we were at Store One and had Nick's ear, and been able to have him as a sounding board
That's great.
for over a decade now. So again, couldn't encourage people enough to reach out to people that have already watched the movie play out a little bit,
Yeah.
and are a few scenes ahead. They have unbelievable insights
Yeah.
to help you avoid some really some hiccups that could maybe not just take you out of the game, but make you change in the wrong ways. So
Right. Yeah. I think that's the key. And in many cases, I think today what we're dealing with, I talk to founders every day, especially in fast casual, and even some of the upstart fine dine and some of the chefs that are moving in the space. And you sometimes I get a feeling that they are so close, but yet at the same time to success, but at the
mhm.
same time so close to failure. It's like that split in the road that is occurring literally right before my eyes. And
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, is this the next Steve Ells,
yeah.
or, is it, Baja Fresh? And that's just, those are the kind of splits that occur in the marketplace
Yeah.
when you look of kind of how Baja and Chipotle were really jockeying for the fresh cash or the fresh Mex space, and one took the right turn, and the other kind of got a little squandered, and now it's not even really a player in that
I,
category. So very interesting.
I think a great point. I think if I was going to kind of break down the difference between maybe a Baja Fresh and a Chipotle, is I think Steve really whether he started with it or as it was about ready to scale, really created a foundation of who Chipotle was,
Right.
what was
Yeah.
its purpose, really defined. We use the word loosely, but really defined a culture,
Hmm.
um, and that culture permeates through. I mean, we end up calling them these value filters, right? These value filters become unbelievably important as you scale to
Right.
help you inform you how to make choices, right? How to make choices with regards to supply chain, how to make choices around recruitment and training, how to make choices around build outs of stores or experience that you want to create for your guest. So I think that that the brand or a brand like Chipotle really had some founders and some key leadership. I'm sure Steve would give this to a lot of other people like Kevin Reddy.
Yep.
Was an incredible force for that company as well. But they were able to create right these great value filters. And if I was going to attest any success that Mendo has had in being able to go from, gosh, when we started, we were doing average unit volumes at 2.5 million. We're now doing average unit volumes at 3.9 million, right?
Wow.
Um,
That's
and,
insane.
and as we scaled, right, we're bigger and run our stores better. And it's simply because we've spent an enormous amount of time refining those value filters, right?
Yeah.
Defining for ourselves how do we make sure that we keep that Mendo magic, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So now that you're at 30 units,
yeah.
and obviously you've got, a massive workforce now, What has been the challenge for you to scale that culture and kind of get it to that level? Because that's kind of where the magic happens when a brand starts to explode, whether it's a Chipotle, a Sweetgreen. You can look at many of the poster children of fast casual, and they didn't miss a beat. When they were in that scaling process, whatever magic they were putting on behind the scenes seemed to work. What are you guys doing to keep that Mendo magic rolling?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you are, you're calling it magic with the other places, because I really think it is. It's
Yeah.
no one knows the amount of work and money that a Sweetgreens, puts into
Right.
entering a new market. No one sees, when Cheesecake Factory is able to make an avocado egg roll in Saudi Arabia, what it took to get a
Right.
quality
To get that
avocado,
done.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean, that actually reflects the quality that you might find at Cheesecake in Sherman Oaks, right? So, so one is the amount of work that you see in supply chain. I think the other, giant investment when I look at brands that inspire us and that we really feel, are best in class, is the investment that they make in training.
Mhm.
I'm looking out in the office, and we have a training department that looks like a company that probably has 150 stores, not one that has 30, right?
Ah,
But it's,
okay.
that level of investment. I mean, all the way down to, we've created an entire coaching methodology on how we coach our team on a daily basis. We've created what we call Mendo Speak, which very well as co-founder, someone could come up to me after I just said something and go, "Wow, that didn't sound very Mendo." And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the co-creator of Mendo. But in fact, it's been so defined by not just me, but by all these incredibly great people that we've brought on board of what Mendo is, that someone is able to make that level of differentiation. So whether it's a store in Houston or a store in Palo Alto or one in South San Diego, you have managers and assistant managers that are coaching using the same Mendocino Farms coaching methodology that
Yeah.
is about being an advocate coach. It's about talking to our team members in a supportive and caring tone. And so when we say stuff like, our culture is selling happy, we start with making sure that we're selling happy to our team, because they're inevitably passing that on to the
Sure.
guest. And I
Yep.
think a lot of people don't align their values with the operational tools that allow their values to live on a daily basis in their stores.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so this episode's about growth, brands
Yeah.
like yourself that are really primed for that next level for growth. And you mentioned some numbers there in terms of AUV. That's a pretty impressive move from a 2.5 to almost 4 million in terms of an AUV. What were some of the contributing factors that help you guys get to that level? Was there an explosion in the menu or just throughput? What was it that really kind of moved you to the next level?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first factor is we got some really good advice from a kind of a legend in the business, Tom Sims, who had created Mimi's Cafe.
Yep.
At the time, we were only an urban concept, kind of the base of skyscrapers. And he goes, "You need
Right.
to go out to suburbia. I know that you want to compete with Panera, and I think that you're a higher end version of this, particularly if you put yourself beside a coffee player."
Right.
So one was going out to suburbia, but the other one was actually really thoughtfully, saying to ourselves, and mind you, this is probably 12 years ago. We were seeing that fast casual was really fitting this niche of people that were very time poor. And really wanted the ordering experience to be quicker, but still wanted a better dining room. And I think
Mhm.
early fast casual, what you see from kind of the Baja Freshes was, higher quality ingredients. But if you looked at the dining room, it still felt fast foody, right? And we
Right,
really
right.
saw that there was more things that we could take from casual dining than just better quality ingredients.
Yeah.
And one of those was the dining room. So over the course of more than a decade, we continue to try to innovate our dining rooms, and I would rival that a lot of them, match up against a lot of polished casual dining restaurants. And we've added things because, to be frank, fast casual breaks so many rules that we don't have to worry about guests, our servers not being able to turn a table, right? So we really can kind of heighten this idea that you always heard the buzzwords from coffee shops of being a third place or a gathering
Right.
place. We've
Yes.
really built out our restaurants to have robust communal tables. We do kids corners. We have, cornhole. We'll have foosball. We've created tons of, from the Wi-Fi to the plugins. So if people want to just come and have a meeting, they can use our space. It doesn't affect our sales, right? Where in a casual dining restaurants, your server would be walking out the door.
Right.
We encourage that kind of behavior. The
Yeah.
other thing that's really grown sales is we started as a catering company, and we continue to treat it with the sophistication that it is its own business. It's not a bolt-on. It's not
Right.
some added incremental sales. So I think out of the gate, we were probably about 19% of total sales in our first few stores. Were at the base of skyscrapers, right? So, of course. And now I would say that, 80% of our stores, 90% of our stores are in suburbia, and we have 22% of sales is catering. So we've continued to evolve that business and really treat it like its own entity. And this year it's going to be north of 20 million
Wow.
in catering sales.
That's insane.
So, and then the last thing is, I joke around that I'd rather be lucky than good. We had nothing to do with third-party delivery. Nothing. Like all of a sudden it was like, who's DoorDash?
Yeah.
What's Postmates? But our food was in the right place at the right time. It's very it travels very well. It's gourmet sandwiches and salads. So we were perfectly aligned. We also happened to be in a lot of the neighborhoods that DoorDash and Postmates were launching in. So both
Right.
Northern California, we have multiple units in Silicon Valley, and then LA. So we were just ripe to be one of the kind of the forefront players in that category. And then we embraced it. Admittedly, we've changed our dining rooms to embrace it, to handle that kind of sales. And now to date, we're north of 10% of our sales, which would be over 10 million in third-party delivery. It's big.
Yeah. That's great. So let's kind of continue down this topic of third-party delivery, because that usually is a kind of a category where fast casual kind of hangs its hat of early adoption, usually great penetration in terms of the market they're in, and then of course the mix itself in terms of your sales. When you look at third-party delivery, your thought on where this could go in the future, because there's pundits out there who talk about the cost both to the operator, you, and the cost to the consumer. Can this scale and stay with it when profitability eventually has to happen for these logistics companies? At some point, they're going to have to start making money. I just think, so the question, I guess, is going to be, can this sustain into the next decade? And what do you see happening to kind of address that issue as we go forward?
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. But yeah, hey, I say this with a lot of conviction. Convenience is a movement.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of trends, but convenience is a movement. It is not going away.
Right on.
The consumer has now tasted this, and demands it. Now the question is, is the consumer willing to pay for it,
Right.
right? And I think that a lot of brands, as you'd mentioned, have only been focused on guest acquisition and trying to build a relationship, and in doing so, are currently running a very non-sustainable model.
Hmm.
Um, hey, I'm just a restaurant guy. Who knows how the Jeff Bezos think in this world? But someone knowing the opportunity that's there, knowing that the guest is building this into their routine, um, one of these players or two of these players is going to shake out and completely figure it out. The one
Right.
thing I can say that we are seeing with our guest is that our guest is willing to pay for this convenience. So I think, like, unlike a lot of people that struggle with it and say, "Oh my God, third-party delivery, it's a marketing expense."
Hmm.
That's not sustainable for a restaurant. I mean, you're going to go make a food item that you don't make any money on because you only make 20% and they're charging you 20%.
Right.
And that's keeping you from making the one that you make 20% from the guest that's in front of you. That's a
Hmm.
non starter. So for us, we continue to price it for our guests in a way that we make money. And if they want that added convenience, which they keep telling us they do, then we charge them for it. The
Interesting.
question now becomes, how much more are they willing to pay, right?
Right.
What is that
Yep.
elasticity? And time's going to tell, but I do know that there's going to be efficiencies that are going to be figured out, as there always are, right? In their industry, as well as the guest is going to increase its comfort level on paying what it actually costs to maintain that convenience.
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting case study in about 25 years for Harvard to take a look at this and really kind of analyze, because this is a true,
Yeah,
social behavior shift that we are seeing right now.
yeah,
Obviously, technology has kind of enabled it, but it'll be one to really look at very closely, because obviously retail has, I just read, I was doing some research the other day. I saw there were over 30 plus retail bankruptcies in 2019,
wow,
with Forever 21 hitting the last. And to me, that just kind of is an indicative point of what you're talking about, is this convenience factor of shopping, in this case,
yeah,
eating.
yeah.
It is a social behavior shift for society. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays
Well,
out.
it, and then sorry to interrupt, but I would take it one step farther. There's an even bigger picture that we're spending an enormous amount of time studying and seeing where Mendocino Farms plugs in, but on this idea of third-party delivery, but then you layer in kind of the reinvention of grocery. And
Hmm.
I truly believe that restaurants can play a large role in heightening the experience, both in
Yep.
walk-in grocery stores that currently have leases for the next 15, 20 years. What is that intersection with virtual kitchens, which is also a really interesting spot? And how do the restaurants, who are the experts in creating prepared foods, right,
Right.
help own that consumer market share that might mean, all the ways that they can use us, but very well, a consumer at their home is fine creating this center of the plate item, but
Hmm.
maybe wants to have side dishes, but they could have side dishes delivered to them in 45 minutes quicker than they could even make them, and don't have to deal with the hassle, right? Or how do restaurants now continue to, um, you know, interject themselves inside actual brick and mortar grocery
Right.
stores? We've
Hmm.
we've built a Mendocino Farms inside a Whole Foods. They have the Whole Friends program. We were the first friend. They actually made an investment in our company, but we're actually right now working with developing a whole line of CPG products,
Right.
with Whole Foods, because they see the value in kind of sharing the Mendocino Farms story, with their guests. That's we all believe is a shared guest.
Sure. Yeah, and that is something that we're seeing more and more of in the top, I'd say the top tier of fast casual, some CPG entries. Obviously, Kava kind of built their
Yeah.
business on some CPG. I wouldn't put it past Sweetgreen to move into that area just because of the kind of the lifestyle brand creation that they're trying to develop. And it'll be interesting to see how virtual kitchens, ghost kitchens develop. I think fast casual is definitely primed for the sector that could maximize that the most in the next decade, especially around third-party delivery. That'll be interesting because that's going to really change the dynamic in terms of unit economics, real estate, labor, all the things that you have to deal with, as a restaurant guy. So
Yes.
that'll be fun to watch for sure. All right, so last question we're going to talk about, and that is kind of moving into the 2020 trends, but also kind of this next 5 years. So we're big futurists here on the network. We really look at kind of the emerging brands, some of the steps that certain brands are taking to try to put that puzzle together. Your thoughts on what we're going to see coming down the next few years in fast casual?
Yeah. Again, I would go back to where we just left off. I honestly think that restaurants are going to help inform and help actually reinvent the grocery space. I think that's a huge thing over the next 3 to 4 years. The other thing that we're spending a lot of time studying and think that it's as revolutionary as it was in the 1950s is the advent of mobile drive-through technology. Again, with that theme of convenience, right? There's a lot of fast casuals that have scaled into shopping centers that are in line, but in leveraging technology through the geofencing, that they could actually have a drive-through component is absolutely groundbreaking and super exciting. And then we did touch on it briefly. As of this moment, I'm not quite sure anyone's really cracked the code on virtual kitchens and how to leverage all of these virtual kitchens that are being built. You have both cloud kitchens, you have Kitchen United, a couple other places out there, but you have native brands that have only been incubated out of the virtual space, trying to create a virtual storefront, and have really had hit and miss success, but they're getting close. There's guys like Eric Greenspan that are really trying to do some special stuff around that, at least here in LA. And then there's actually like the big dogs. I mean, you got Chick-fil-A is trying to figure out how to use these kitchens. You've got the Mendos and the Sweetgreens of the world, noodling on it. So I think it's a really exciting time around how to take actual known brands that have a brick and mortar experience and then leverage these virtual kitchens. So that's really exciting. And then the last one around food, I think, is watching plants move their way to the center of the plate. I think that you can't ignore it. Mendocino Farms sells an enormous amount of meat-forward gourmet sandwiches. Right? We do. But our number one PMix item happens to be a vegetarian salad. Our number 2 PMix item happens to be a vegan salad. So at some point, you have to kind of take a step back and go, wow, consumers are starting to shift in having what I not necessarily completely embracing vegetarian vegan, but really becoming more omnivores. So flexitarians, if you may. So I think that is that's a continued trend that if I was going to be a good futurist, I don't know. Do you allow us to place bets, Paul? Like if I nail those, do I win?
Believe me, well, this is going to be chronicled in editorial and video. So now So
Mario said no. These are. I'm just,
People will be pulling this up in a decade in
there
a
you go.
classroom in front of Harvard and studying this, going, "What were these
Perfect.
guys? These guys were onto something big."
Yeah. Like the
10
guy
years
that checkered
before.
shirt.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
All
that's
right. Well,
interesting because I think you hit on some points that are kind of the era of fast casual. I've been following this since the mid '90s, and it's been one of those things where I've seen these big waves occur. Saw it in around the early 2000s, new brand creation. Mid 2000 was kind of the really acceleration, obviously with real estate plummeting and kind of the market shifting away from casual and fine dining because it was a hole in the market with the economic issue. And then, we kind of paused for a moment, and then it was kind of the private equity,
yeah.
period in time moment. And I feel like now we've finally made it to a technology shift
Yeah.
into what our next decade is going to be, because you're hitting it on all points of mobile ordering, a change in social behavior, cloud kitchens, all the things that are happening in terms of the data fronts that are really going to make fast casual a great spot. So you guys, of course, I've always said fast casual still is the savior to the restaurant industry, bar none.
Yeah.
The restaurant industry would not be where it is today without the inception of the fast casual restaurant concept. So, Mario, it's been great having you on the show today, man. Thanks for
Thanks for
stopping in.
having me, Paul. I appreciate it. It's great
Yeah,
talking with you.
absolutely. All right, well, we'll definitely get a chance to share some more time with you, hopefully in the coming episodes here on Fast Casual Nation. If you are an emerging brand, a fast casual startup, maybe you're bootstrapping right now and trying to build the next Mendocino Farms, make sure and shoot us who you are. Maybe we don't even know you out there. So you can do that. Just shoot us an email to producer@foodabletv.com. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast and also check it on YouTube. Hit us up on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're pretty much everywhere. Love your comments. And of course, if you want to reach out to me, hit me up on Twitter @Paul Barron. It's been great seeing you all on this episode of Fast Casual Nation. We'll catch you next time.